All righty. Anybody feel led to pray tonight?
I do.
All righty, cool.
Quick.
Can't hear you.
Heavenly Father, we'd like to lift up this room tonight, Lord. We thank you for everyone that's in this room, Lord. We thank you for Pastor. We want you to please let him speak your message through him, Lord. Thank you for all you do. In your son's name, Jesus. Amen.
We've been on our series, The Battlefield of the Mind. Probably going to have maybe two, maybe three more. And we've specifically narrowed down to that battle, talking about stinking thinking, how to learn to recognize that unhealthy, irrational, undisciplined, unbridled thinking and learn to be intentional and to think about what we're thinking about. Our passage is 2 Corinthians 10, 3 through 6. It says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but divinely powerful for the destruction of fortresses. And we are destroying speculations and every lofty thing that is raised up against the knowledge of God, and we are taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ, and we are ready to punish all disobedience whenever our obedience is complete." We talked about the weapons of our warfare. Then we talked about strongholds and how they work. And then we got into forefront and threshold thinking last night, learning how to take thoughts captive. We know that we have good thoughts and bad thoughts, and the devil's speaking to us and God's speaking to us, and sometimes we have to learn how to differentiate between what's good thinking, what's stinking thinking, what's healthy, and what comes from God and what comes from the devil. And so when we've learned to recognize the thoughts that come from the devil, then we've got to learn to take those thoughts captive. And we said the word captive refers to taking something a prisoner by a spear, actually. It's kind of, the old term actually Greek means to go into an enemy's camp with your spear and catch them sleeping, and you put the spear in a very forceful, powerful way, catching them off guard and then leading them away from where they are until you take them captive and make them your prisoner. And that's what we have to do with our thoughts. We have to learn to recognize that stinking thinking, those thoughts. We have to take our spear, so to speak, and be forceful. We got to grab that thought. We got to take hold of that thought. We got to arrest that thought. We got to make it our prisoner. We got to take it captive, and then we got to put it where it's supposed to be. Bring those thoughts captive until they line up and obey, the truth of what God's trying to do. But tonight we're going to talk about focus. It's kind of it's not so much in the passage itself that we just read. Luke Carey, when I was at Dunklin, talked about focus all the time. Focus, 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 focus. Whenever we were in class and we'd be daydreaming or not, he'd light you up, man. He'd say, "Focus," And I remember being there at Dunklin when I first got there, man, and I was all shot out, and people said to me, "Where's your head at?" I'm like, "What do you mean, where's my head at?" What they recognized is that I was there in the chow hall, for example, but I wasn't in the chow hall. Are you with me? I physically was there, but my brain was out there focused on all this stuff that I left. And so they were telling me, get your head out of your butt. This is why we have head and butt disease. Get your head out of your butt. Get focused. Think about what you're thinking about. You're not out there in the world. You're here in a program now. You need to become disciplined. You need to harness that crazy stinking thinking. You need to think about what you're thinking about. My dad used to always say to me, "Get your head in the game, son." And we hear that, stay focused. Kids are, their attention span is very, very short, isn't it? So we constantly have to be saying, stay focused, stay focused, stay focused. And same with us as Christians, as disciplined followers of Christ. If you're going to be successful it's imperative. If you're going to be victorious, it's imperative that you learn to stay focused. We can focus on things above, things below. We can focus anywhere we want to focus. But it's impossible to focus on two things at one time. You can't focus on the Lord and focus about all this other stuff. So tonight, we're going to talk about focus. It's about being intentional, thinking about what we're thinking about and getting focused and being intentional with our thoughts. Because the devil, one of the strategies of the devil is he wants to get your focus. We're supposed to be focused on God and what's in front of us, aren't we? Mm-hmm. We're supposed to be what we call living in the now. Mm-hmm. You know, the past is gone, the future ain't got here. You know, the only thing I need to worry about is to be in the now and be focused in the now. And if I will focus in the now and work in the now, be about God's business, be faithful and diligent with what God's put in front of me and cultivate faithfulness, if I'll seek His righteousness, His kingdom and His righteousness first, then He'll add all these other things to me. So the devil knows that when I'm focused on God, that's where I'm in my element. That's where I'm in my groove. That's where I'm supposed to be dwelling and cultivating faith. The Bible says to dwell in the land and cultivate faithfulness. We're going to talk about dwelling tonight. The Bible says dwell in the land. The land means your land. It's the land that God's given you. It's really what we call your KRA, or your key responsibility areas. The land that Kathy dwells in is in the schoolroom pretty much. The land I dwell in is pretty much right here. And we've all got an environment or an area that we need to cultivate. We need to bring out the best in it. We need to maximize that culture. And so it says to dwell in the land. You know, don't be jumping around from this land to this land, from this church to this church, and going from this person to this person. You know, we need to figure out where we want to be, and we need to settle down, and we need to dwell in that land, and then cultivate faithfulness. Bring out the best in it. Maximize the potential. Give God complete focus, because the devil wants you either in the past, over here focused on all the stuff that you lost, the woulda, coulda, shouldas, or he'll have you out there in the future thinking about all the what ifs. He'll try to get you focused everywhere except on the Lord. He knows if you're focused on the Lord that he's in big trouble. Because you can't focus on the Lord and focus in the past at the same time. You can't focus on the Lord and focus on the future. And you can't focus on the things of God and focus on the things of the devil. We can't set our minds on the things of the flesh and the things of the Spirit. You can't do it. It's impossible. I'm either going to be setting my mind on the things of the Spirit or the things of the flesh. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. So turn me tonight to Philippians 4, 6 through 8. This is one of my go-to verses. I probably quote this scripture. I've got it memorized. I mean, I probably quote this scripture 3 times a day. Paul's talking in Philippians, it's chapter 4, right? Paul says, be anxious for nothing. Be anxious for no thing. Keep the main things the main thing. We have a lot of things going on, but we have to keep the main things the main thing. So there's no thing. Paul says there's nothing that we should be anxious about. The word anxious means to be overly anxious, overly concerned. It means to be wrapped around the axle, caught up. It means to be have high anxiety. So Paul's telling us, he's assuming that we all have high anxiety. No, I mean, how many have man, we live in a very stressful world, don't we? We get stressed out. So Paul's saying, I understand you get anxious and you worry and you get overly concerned, but never, ever, ever in any situation should you ever have high anxiety, sinful kind of anxiety. We have to be concerned, but we're never to be excessively worried about things because we don't have any control over a lot of things. So he says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, or rather than, do something different in everything by praying. Pray about it, don't worry about it. Pray, pray, pray. Prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. Let your requests or your petitions, make them known to God. Let him know what you're struggling with. Let him know what you're dealing with and turn them over. This is what this scripture is about. It's saying instead of worrying about things you have no real control over, is turn those things over to God. It actually means to roll over in His care. That means to put the ball in His court. Put them over on Him. Share with Him what you're going through, and then leave it there, walk away, and get back into the now. Get back focused. Instead of worrying and get caught with the past, the future, getting God's... turn it over to God, get out of that neighborhood, and get your butt back focused on the Lord. Then he says, finally. When you hear the word finally, it means therefore, or last of all, or most importantly. He says, whatever is true. The word means whatever is factual. Whatever is honorable, worthy of reverence, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is good repute. If there's any excellence, let your mind, anything worthy of praise, let your mind dwell on these things. So we have 6 positive attributes, so Paul tells us rather than worry, that we need to let our minds dwell on things that are true, things that are factual. I can't tell you how many times in my journaling, I'm running my mouth and talking about all this and going through that, and the Lord says, stick with the facts. He tells me that. Reminds me of that movie Joe Friday, right? Joe Friday? He'd go with his little pad right over, and he'd be interviewing it, and this lady would be going over here, and then she'd be talking about that, and then she'd be over here, man. Just give me the facts, okay? What he was saying is, I ain't got time for all that thing. Let's get down to what's true. Let's get down to the facts. I have a tendency to say, well, Lord this, and Lord that, and what about this? And I get and David, he says, just stick with what we know. Just stick with the facts. Just stick with what is factual. What is factual, the things that are true are right here. I don't need to get into the what ifs or the woulda, coulda, shouldas. I don't need to be overwhelmed and dwelling and focusing on things that I have no control of. This is why the serenity prayer says, God grant us the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and wisdom to know different. There's so many things that it's a waste of time, things that we can't even change. The world is as it is. People are as I can't change them, but I can change me, can't I? I can't change all that, but I can change me. I can focus on me. So whatever's true, whatever's factual, stick with the fact, the things that we know for sure. I know I'm God's child, I know I'm God's son, I know I'm His beloved, I know I'm seated with Him in heavenly places, I know I have His Holy Spirit, I know He's my helper, I know He's taking me to heaven. And there's so many wonderful things that we can choose to set our minds on. I can focus on things that are factual or things that are lies, can't I? Things that are honorable, it means things that are worthy of reputation, things that are noteworthy, respectable, admirable, honorable, noteworthy. Things that are right, that means just or righteousness. Focus on things that are just and working right. The Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and what? His righteousness. Seek that. Things that are pure, unmixed. The things of the world are twisted and perverted and corrupted and tainted and polluted, but things that are pure are unmixed. Things that are lovely, lovable. That means things that are beautiful, things that are wonderful. Things that are of good repute. That means of good reputation, that are held in high esteem. Things that build up my character. These are 6 positive attributes that we're to be focused on and that we're to dwell on rather than the other. So Paul goes through all this thing about anxious, and he says, finally, in light of all this, focus or dwell or set your mind on these particular things, positive attributes, not the negative things. I could say you can't focus on positive things like this and then at the same time be focusing on the things that are exact opposite. It's impossible. So this word dwell is a really cool word. Logismoa, mea. It means the word means to take into account. It means to carefully consider something, to study something, to reason upon it, to weigh in on it. It means to meditate, calculate, contemplate, and deliberate. It's actually an accounting term. I mean, we have in accounting, I don't remember much, but I remember a little. We have assets, and then we have liabilities, don't we? So when you're accounting, every month or whatever is required, you go through and do kind of like an audit, and you think of all the things that are an asset that are positive. Okay, we've got this much money in the bank, we've got this house, we've got these vehicles, we've got these cars, we've got this jewelry, these are the tangible, positive things that we know for sure. The liabilities are, we still owe a mortgage on this house, we owe money on these cars, we got FPL bills to pay, we get gas bills to pay, we get water bills to pay. Okay? And then you add them up, subtract it, and then you're either in the black or the red. So an accountant's job is to consider, contemplate, meditate on all these things and determine which column they go in. So the word thoughts is the word nomea, means intentions, purposes, and schemes. God gives us thoughts, intentions, that have intentions and purposes and schemes, and the devil has thoughts, intentions, and purposes and schemes. And so when we have these thoughts that come at us, we're going to hear them, but before we let them get into our head, we begin to contemplate and meditate and dwell on these things and consider them, we have to stop, catch ourselves, and we have to decide what column it goes in. Is it stinking thinking that's unhealthy, unreasonable, undisciplined, irrational, illogical, or is it good, healthy, sound thinking, sound mind? If it's unhealthy thinking, we have to bring those thoughts captive. And instead of thinking the opposite, we need to go to the other column and start learning to differentiate between these thoughts. And we need to focus on the positive side. We need to decide. So when these thoughts come, we have to decide what. So when it comes to the word to dwell, it means to take into account. When these thoughts come, I have to dwell on them and take into account, okay, where's this thought coming from? Is it positive? Is it negative? Which account does it go in? You got it? The second word is kind of like the word to pitch a tent. Have you ever been camping? Have you been like real camping?
Yeah.
Not where they say you'll be staying at site number 38. It has water and electric, and you pull up there and in your Winnebago. And I'm talking about real camping where you put in your bag and you just take off. Okay, and you're free to go do wherever you want to go, aren't you? And finally, I get a little tired, and I make a decision for the night that hey, I need to dwell. I need to settle down. The word actually means dwell means to settle down and pitch a tent. I can pitch a tent over there by the brook, or I can pitch it right over here, closer to the road, or I have a choice to dwell, settle down, pitch a tent wherever I want. It's the same with our thoughts. We can focus on things that are true, honorable, right, pure, lovely, and ever a good repute, or I can focus on other things. So, pitch a tent is what that word dwell means. It means to dwell in the land, cultivate. Pitch a tent. Make up your mind, this is where you're going to settle down. The pioneers in the olden days, they would go and go, and finally they would get where they're going, like California, and they say, okay, they would look out over the horizon and say, this is it. Okay, this is where we're going to, I see the cabin, I see the barn, I see the outhouse, I see it. This is where we're going to hang out. This is the decision that this is where we're going to build our future and our camp. It's the same kind of word. It's the word abide. Abide means to take up, to remain and beside continually, to take up constant residence, persistent, loyal, or persistence in faithfulness. We're told in the Bible to abide in the vine, dwell in the vine. That means to be vitally connected. That means we're to settle down, pitch a tent, make a decision that the way I'm going to be successful is God is my sole source. He's the vine, I'm the branch. And as a branch, to be successful, I have to abide, pitch my tent, I have to dwell and settle down, and that's where I'm going to be. I'm not going to be in the world. I'm not going to be over here doing this. From now on, the way I live my life is I know that to be successful, I've got to abide in the vine. Okay? Jesus said that very, very clearly. It's also the word incubate. Remember, I'll never forget this teaching. Luke Carey said, it means all these different things to abide, but he said if you trace the Greek word and go deep, it's the word to incubate something. You get an egg and you put it in an incubator, which is like a perfect environment so that it can get a good head start, and in that incubator it's cultivated, it gets a chance to nest, or we know if there's a bacteria or a virus or something that's unhealthy, and they'll isolate it and go into quarantine, and they'll put you in an incubation period where they put that thing in a Peachtree dish and they watch it during an incubation period to see what grows. They put it in as something like a microscopic thing, and then in that incubator it develops, and as it dwells, as it settles down, as it biz about his business, eventually it will manifest and reveal itself. And if you feed it, and you keep feeding it, and it's going to eventually turn in, it's going to turn into something, and then you can see what you got. Okay? It's So what we focus on, what we focus on, we feed. What we feed on, what we dwell on, incubates. And eventually what we incubate, it will manifest. It'll turn into something. I can't focus on two things at once. If I'm focusing on this eraser, I can't focus on that. If I'm focusing on this eraser, I can't focus on this marker. If I focus on the marker, I can't focus on this. This is why, if you ever seen a lion tamer, when he's messing with a lion, what does he do? He brings out a whip here, and the three-legged stool here. And unfortunately, a lion ain't very smart, I guess. Because he's like looking at three legs, and he don't know which one to hit, does he? So the lion tamer's got this. He's got the whip here. It's distracting, trying to scare him to death. Then he's got not only a stool over here, but it's a three-legged stool. And so the lion could just forget about all that, bring his thoughts captive, put all that, and he could just pounce on them, couldn't he? But he's never learned to differentiate what's really going on. He doesn't know how to pay attention. He doesn't know how to focus. So he's focused on the whip and focused on this, and he's not focused on what he wants. And so the lion tamer is like the devil. Here God's trying to get us to focus on Him, and the devil's trying to crack that whip. He's trying to get us everywhere but everywhere. And so we can't focus on two things. It's impossible. Whatever we focus on, we're going to feed. If I choose to focus on a thought from the devil about a lustful kind of thought, and I just keep thinking on it, and I keep feeding that thought, that thing's gonna, I'm gonna keep feeding it, and it's gonna incubate, isn't it? And next thing you know, it's gotten to the point where, I'm dwelling on it, it's incubating, and then eventually, if we keep going, that next thing you know, you're going to be in a bad neighborhood. You're going to be in compromising and making some decisions. You're going to find yourself caught up in pornography, or you're going to be caught up in sexual what's that word? Miscuity or whatever? Promiscuity. So we can focus on anything. Well, I can focus on things that are true. I can focus and I can feed in things that are true, things that are honorable, things that are right, things that are pure, loving. I can feed those things. I can dwell on those things, and those things will incubate, and they will manifest. They will turn into things. If I focused on pure things, then I'm going to focus on pure. If I'm going to focus on honorable and right and pure and loving, all those good attributes, and this is just some of them, obviously. Or I can focus on me and poor little old me and self-pity and no one loves me, I'm rejected. I can feed into all these crazy thoughts of the devil, and I can feed them and feed them and feed them. Next thing we know, we build a mountain out of a molehill. Somebody said a little something. Next thing you know, you built this big old thing up because you didn't bring those thoughts captive. The next thing you know, you've got this huge resentment going down, and then it's going to turn into a stronghold. It's like I've got this choice of two dogs, right? I can have my little gentle golden retriever over here and feed him, or I can have my wild pit bull, or over here I can have a good dog and I can have a bad dog. Reality of it, whichever dog I feed the most is going to become the strongest. If I feed this dog, and that's all I focus on is training him and developing him like a pit bull to fight, I'm going to have a lean, mean, crazy, manifested monster. But if I choose not to feed that particular dog, and I choose to focus on a poodle, and I want a domesticated dog, and I want to train him and teach him, roll over the bark and do these things, and I feed that, then that's what hopefully he'll turn into. It's a choice on what I want, what dog I want to feed. If I feed this one, then this one's going to die. Or if I reverse it and start feeding this one, then this one's going to die. This is why Galatians says, we have to walk in the Spirit. These two fleshly natures are spiritual, and the flesh are in opposition to one another, and it makes us unable to do what we please. So this word dwell is we have what we call a demonic stronghold. How many remember talking about that? Here I am, and I've got a problem or a thought. And I go to my head. I like my head. How many know the mind is a bad neighborhood? We don't want to go there alone. And we get, this thought comes, and we don't bring it thought, we don't take it, and the next thing we know, we start taking that thought, and we focus on that thought, and I go to my head, and I begin to feed that thought. Now it goes through my ears, and it goes into my brain, and I contemplate, meditate, take into account. Then I decide I'm going to pitch a tent on that thought, I'm going to abide in that thought, and I'm going to let it incubate, and eventually it's going to manifest, isn't it? So the devil loves to sit out here and be sneaky, doesn't he? And here we run right to, first thing when something happens, we go to our head. How many do that sometimes? Just a thought. We know Jezebel sent word to Elijah with a thought. Next thing you know, he took that thought and he was running. He had just called down fire from heaven, destroyed the prophets of Baal, destroyed Jezebel, and the next thing a thought came, he got caught up in fear. He acted upon that fear, and the next thing he took off running, and he found himself under a juniper tree ready to kill himself. All because of a thought. He just called down fire. He should have focused on whatever is true, honorable. He should have really factually, God is on my side. I just called fire down. I just destroyed the prophets. If God is for me, who could be against me? And all of a sudden this thought came from nowhere, from the devil. It was hearsay. It wasn't even for sure. He didn't know whether it really came from her. It was just a thought. Next thing you know, he took that thought. He found that thought. He incubated that thought. Next thing you know, he was running for his life. He bought into a lie that actually almost caused him to kill himself. Is that whacked? If it happens to Elijah, it could happen to us. How many know that's where the devil got to Eve? That's where the devil tried to get at Jesus. And that's where he's going to try to get at you. So that, I talked about speculations. Remember, the stronghold of speculations is vain imaginations independent, stinking thinking. And the other one was what we call possessive, obsessive, harassing, bombarding, relentless thoughts that cause you to dwell on something, that lead to a mental breakdown or craziness. Man, I hate to admit it, even as the pastor of the church, but man, the devil don't like me. He knows that my gift is contemplator. One of my gifts is a contemplator. I love to meditate on the Word of God. I love to think about things. And that's kind of where they am. But when I started smoking pot and getting up into my head away from God, I got up into the neighborhood where you're sitting there and going, wow, man, groovy, man. And the devil's just talking to you. And next thing you know, you're sitting over there on the couch where everyone else is talking, and you're up there like this. Am I the only one? No. I am the only one? And next thing you know, that guy's looking at me. That guy's talking about me. And here in the life of the party, and here you're so focused, the devil's used that type of thing to get you so up in your head that you're in your head, you walk around, everybody's looking at you and say, where's your head at? You're here, but you ain't here. Your head's out there. Lance can tell you that all day long about these guys. And I understand because I've been there, so I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying it's a demonic stronghold. We got to get out of the neighbor. It's called the stronghold of the intellect. It's a stinking thinking. And the devil will cause you to dwell. He loves to get you up in your head where you're walking around, trying to teach class, or you're trying to drive a car, or you're trying to do something at work, and next thing you know, you're busting your finger with a hammer. You're sawing over somebody's arm, or driving into a wall. I can't tell you how many times I'm driving and think about something. Next thing I know, I pass my exit, and 20 miles down the road, I go, where am I going? I do it all the time going to the gym. I'll find myself at Walmart. I go, what am I doing? It's just because I'm daydreaming. I'm not focused. And so I got to think about what I'm thinking about. I got to put down on these thinking things. So here's another one. Focus requires practice. Number 2, practice requires discipline. 3, discipline requires what? Anybody? Butch, you should know this.
Patience.
Requires focus. You got to be focused if you're going to be successful and win, and you got to practice focus. That means you got to get in the habit. How do you practice something because you got to make a habit to be focused. We're all out of focus. We've got to learn to focus. We've got to be intentional. And practice requires that we're disciplined. Discipline is a daily practice or habit that we do. Paul told Timothy to discipline yourselves for the purpose of godliness. Paul tells Timothy, if you want to be godly, then you have to discipline yourself. You can't sit around smoking cigarettes, eating ice cream, and wasting your time behind the TV or on Facebook. If you want to be physical fit, you got to get to the gym. You got to make a habit. You got to get there. If you want to be a man of God, you got to get into the Word. If you want to be a man of God, you got to pray. There's spiritual disciplines that if you want to be godly, you have a choice. And so it starts with focus and ends with focus and goes back to, so there's a cycle. Focus requires practice, practice requires discipline, discipline requires focus, and focus requires that we get focused. So Paul says, finally, my brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, what is pure, what is lovely, what is excellent, what is good repute, let your mind dwell, focus, and incubate on these things. We'll turn me real quick to Colossians 3:1-3. Paul Paul says to the Colossians, therefore, if you have been raised up with Christ, that means if you're a Christian, if you've been born again, it says keep seeking. The word there is a verb. It refers to a continual, ongoing practice that is your job. You have to do it. Mama can't do it for you. Daddy can't do it for you. Even God can't do it for you. You got to do it. Keep seeking the things that are above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God, and set your mind on the things above, not on the things of the earth. The Amplified says, set your minds and keep them set on what is above, the higher things, not on the things of this earth. So, we've got a choice. We can set our minds on things above, or the things that are positive, or things that are negative. We have a choice. The actual word means to set your mind on one of two places. Set your mind on the things above or the things below, and keep it set. It's an ongoing word, so it means to set and to keep it set, because we know that even though we may choose to focus on some, 10 minutes later we can be focused on something else. So we got to set it there and keep setting it, and keep resetting it over and over and over again. It's an ongoing practice and a discipline that we have to get good at. So he says, keep seeking the things above, not below, because that's where God is, not down here. So, I got the channel changer, baby. Cool. I remember had 5 people sitting in the room, and you're over there going, and they go here, give me that thing. Or you lose the channel changer. Nothing worse sitting in a room when somebody doesn't have any interest in the channels that you like, and they're over here flipping on, the Turner Network or Disney Channel. I'm over here UFC fighting, baby, and I'm over here on the SEC channel, and she's over here on the Hallmark. Give me that thing. Well, you know what? This is my channel changer. Okay, I'm in possession. I've got control. It's up to me. I can set it over here on Disney Channel or Nature Channel or whatever. I can put it on the SC. I can put it on the Porno Channel. I can put it on the TBN. I can put it anywhere I want. I can set, but I have to set my mind. I choose. Don't say your mama caused you to do it because you didn't breastfeed you, or your daddy, or you were adopted or rejected. Don't blame you. No, you did it. You made choices. You set your mind. Romans 5 says, for those that are according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who are according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For the mind set on the flesh is death, but the mind set on the Spirit is life and peace. How many of you want life and peace? I don't know what I do. I don't want a crazy, reprobate, crazy mind. I want a sound mind. Because the mind set on the flesh is hostile towards God. Listen to this. For it does not subject itself to the law of God, for it is not even able or capable to be able to do it. You can't set your minds on the flesh and expect whatsoever to have your mind on the Spirit at the same time. It's impossible. You've got to set your mind on things above or below, on things of the Spirit, the things of the flesh. Things of the Spirit lead to life, peace, and joy in the Holy Ghost. Things of the flesh lead to destruction, corruption, and that's the way we've gone. I don't know about you, but I don't want to go that way. I want to go this way. So let me ask you, what we focus on, we feed. What we feed incubates. If you keep on doing that, it's going to manifest. You can feed the good dog or the bad dog. It's your choice, whatever one you feed. Focus requires practice. Practice requires discipline. Discipline requires focus. And it all boils down to you. You have to set and reset your mind where you want it to be. Amen. Next week we'll hopefully get into the sound mind. I look forward to that one. That's going to be a good one. How to renew the mind, the spirit of the mind. Amen.
Amen.